Okay, we're going to begin shading our hair textures. So in this first box, what I want you guys to look at is directional lines, where the lines are coming out of, lights, mediums, and darks. So you'll be doing a lot of contouring at first, trying to figure out, where these directional lines come from. Now you can go ahead and begin with some simple contours, like this big chunk right here, these dark areas. So what I do is I start looking for those dark areas and I add them in. So we want to do a general hair shape. Just begin putting in those chunks. Really figuring out where the lines start, where they end up. Draw from observing the image. Do not draw from your imagination. So you can begin with the darks. Try and match some of these dark shapes that are in here. Make sure your pencil is really well sharpened. These hairlines are pretty detailed. So you're still looking for light, mediums, and darks. You can go back in with a kneaded eraser and add highlights if you like. Okay, you can continue to add layers, just make sure your pencil is very sharpened. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next one. Okay, sorry, I forgot to push record there. So what I'm doing on this curly hair texture is I'm looking for these ringlet chunks. So I started with the most obvious one here, and then I swoop this one down. It goes underneath. We're going to be really focused on highlight, midtone, and shadow here. This one is kind of a ringlet, but you know, we can adjust it the way we want it to, because technically it's, you know, going around like that, and we're really only seeing this part, and it gets kind of small, and then it scoots over a little bit, and then it kind of goes out. So we really want that to work in our favor with whatever we're drawing. So anything that you need to adjust. I'm just using a regular pencil to map out some of these things. Now look at how this overlaps. We have an overlap. Got to put that in there. Some straighter pieces. So I have a lot of directional contour lines in here. So again, just like on the first one, and looking for all these, you know, dark areas that we want to put in, we can start to search for those dark areas in the curly hair. And I like to skip around and just put in what I can at first. And fill in on all the blanks. So I put in all these directional hairs, but I don't want to lose the shimmer that's in there. Because even though these lines are real fine and close together, we don't want to lose the highlights, because things that are close together can become very dark with mark making. So even if you just pick one section to focus on, if you put all your contour lines in, find one of these sections that has nice value transitions and try to go in and do the dark to light highlight like the diagram at the top of the page. Now there is a shimmer over here. I don't want to lose that. I can scoot over this thing because I want to focusing on this lock right here. So I'm looking at like it's a ribbon. It would be this whole chunk right here. Okay, so as long as you get some of these shimmers in there, you can do as many of them as you like, but as long as you're demonstrating value and correct directional line with curly hair, then I think that you have become proficient. So think about highlights, midtones, and shadows. Please observe the image. Try to resist shading from imagination. Okay, so just keep working at that for highlight, midtone, and shadow. Let's take a look at the next section. This is what we have so far for straight and curly. Now we want to look at the direction of long wavy hair. Like if you're drawing someone's face and you have, you know, a full length of waves to work with, I want you to break it down into chunks. And sometimes you might put these in and not like them and have to switch them around. And a lot of these images, their hair looks unrealistically awesome. So, you know, these people are posing, their models. This is a bright highlight, so we have to be careful not to lose that, but we can look at how dark it is up here and how dark it is around the face and know that very often the face is framed by the hair. Put in her face real quick. Okay, so directional lines, we don't want to lose those. Oh, I lost the taper there. I'm just going to back this up a little bit. So it comes out very light back there. Kind of give myself a edge to go to. Oops. So again, lights, mediums, and darks. I made this person's face a lot bigger than it's supposed to be. So look at how the hairs overlap. Again, we're looking for recognized chunks. And if we have a section that is lighter like this, we can use the area around it to make it darker. So really I've made this a lot bigger right here. A lot of volume, kind of pull that back. Okay, so keep practicing directional lines with this one. Sometimes less is more. And then sometimes if someone's hair is, really crazy in an image, you can, use your best judgment as far as composition goes to see what adjustments need to be made to make it look more realistic. But it's very important to know that around the face, your hair is framed out with this shadow, this dark shadow. Okay. These lines, again, sharpen your pencil so they don't get too sloppy. Take a look at that, the roots right there. Make sure you get those in there too. Okay. All right, so we're going to take a look at the mask folds. If you're drawing a mask, alright, so let's be mindful of these almost perforated edges that are right here. They go across the front as well. Now we have to keep them in sync with the contour. Alright, so we're looking for lights, mediums, and darks, and I'm noticing that this mask is not the color of the paper, so I'm just going to begin putting in some of these shapes that I see. I'll probably go in with a needle eraser and adjust this. So again, we're looking at highlight, midtone, and shadow. You could use a blending stump on this to not add as much graphite, but move around as much as you can. Now there's not really a heavy contour on that end, so if we were drawing this, we would shade away from that outline to define the edge. Okay, so this is just the background that's right here, and I exaggerated the value a little bit. So just a few things I would do to, well, let me finish doing a few values down here first. I'm going to go in and shape those other parts in a little bit. It's not white like the paper, so that's why I'm putting in all these values. And then I just noticed right here, we can see a little bit of the other side. I did put in the point here, so I would like to widen this as it, you know, kind of, it's hard to see, but it goes across the person's face right there. Because the values change just a little bit. So it's just like fabric folds that we're playing around with here. I'm going to keep working at it. This could take a few more minutes. We're already at 23 minutes, and I have another page to look at with you guys. Let's do these really quickly so you guys can further your study on some of these other areas that we've covered. So I'm just going to kind of contour in this guy's hair real fast. And, you know, I can make adjustments as needed. And I don't want you guys to spend forever on his facial features. I'm just gonna put in a kind of robot man, okay? To make sure that I have everything where it needs to go. Okay, so let's see. We'll look at this wide open space of his forehead. So we have to figure out the contour. So again, directional line. This is really starting to slant backwards. His eye is behind me. Okay. I'm going to sharpen my pencil so I can get more detail. This is a very dark area here, but we want it to very softly shade into the highlighted part. And then a nice little value fade here. We could use the side of our pencil to shade. It's a very smooth surface, so we want to copy that smooth surface. So his ear, if you look at where his eye is at, I'm not being very detailed with these features because I want to focus on the hair. So contouring, my lines are a little thick, and I think the width is a little high right there. So we've got dark at the roots here, and then dark where it curls back. So since we put in those contour lines, that's a great way to start. And then just keep working at this, getting those lights, mediums, and darks put in, using your directional lines. Sorry I'm going so fast, I'm just trying to keep your video a little bit shorter. You guys can pause as needed. And slowly build up your equal value. Okay, we're slowly getting there. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the front hairline. This is just something I want you to have experience with. Try and shape out. This is very short hair, very short straight hair. Just doing a round haircut real fast. Now these hairs kind of point down, but we can see where they start to grow out of the scalp. So we want to, it's kind of like when you're putting in eyebrow hairs. You want them to be staggered, short, medium, long, where they're coming out of the skin. So everything right here is kind of sticking out and going slightly down, and then it very quickly changes because of the hairstyle. And you can put in these dark chunks if you want to start, since there's highlight, midtone, and shadow there. And I know I've created a very round contour, but it's very square. Just gives me a general guideline. So as it gets further back, the hairs will become shorter. So just based on the nature of the way these are growing, I'm going to turn my paper to the side so that my wrist can be more comfortable. And I'm looking at the image. I'm just putting in these little hairs, the direction that they're growing. So I do recommend that, like, if you're feeling like this is unnatural, just turn your paper to where you feel like you can get these angles. Okay, so I put them in, and I'm gonna complete where they come out of the scalp right here. This part's very important in order to make it look natural. can actually see some of them coming out. Sharpen your pencil if you need to. Okay. If you would like to go in and put that consistent row of highlights back in, and then, oops, there was something on my paper there. Okay, so you guys can work at that for a couple more minutes. I'm going to go ahead and introduce the last portion. You can pause this if you need to. Now we're looking at fabric folds. You can Google fabric folds if you're not happy with these, but these are like little mountain ranges from above, lights, mediums, and darks. No major harsh changes in value, but there is definitely a variety of values that make up. So I'm looking at positive and negative space between them. So you want to practice getting these, and there are some fabric folds. I looked at quite a few fabric folds, and at the time I felt like this was a good sample. You can find some that have sharper transitions and more elaborate folds, kind of like when you draw a ribbon. You've got some parts that are in the front, some parts that are in the back. So you've got those S curves where things fold over, and then they'll have a shadow. So something to consider, actually this would be a highlight. Where it goes in, it's a shadow. Got some heavy outlines on this right here, but so this would be a good spot for a highlight. Alright, so that's just something to think about, like 3D form with fabric. Pinterest has some really nice fabric folds, like demos. Most of them are for digital art, but they've got some really cool examples. The corner one right here is a nice sharp one. It has a nice little coming out of it. this is a little off. Looks like I exaggerated that quite a bit. Our box for drawing this is a little bit larger than the image. So you need to build up in layers to get these smooth transitions. And then if I'm a little too heavy-handed with the values, I'm going back and kneading them out with the kneaded eraser. Like this one. So I guess lesson learned here, map out your composition first like we did on the other ones of the box. Like this is a dark shape, this is a dark shape, this swoops over here, this one comes down, this one doesn't quite reach up so high. And then there's this nice little middle ground right here that needs to come in. Got a little bit of a stain there. So keep working with your lights, mediums, and darks. I will probably teach this again in person in class and then re-record it and add it on to the lesson. Alright, I hope this is a nice start for you guys. Fabric, in any picture that you choose to do it in, can really take a long time, so rushing this process is tricky. All right, so keep practicing. This is an intense value study. We're at 41 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. Just review everything we did. We did short hairline. We did the mask fabric. We did, long hair. It's wavy. We did detailed study of curls and short hair. So thank you. Put your name on this and upload it to Schoology.